Warm greetings, everyone. Welcome to today's session of Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. My name is Mansi Balparga, and I will be the host for the session today. The session is conducted with the support of Water Resources Council of the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and in collaboration with W4W Foundation and media partner Counterview. We are glad to do this conversation, namely Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water, which we co-equally refer as Blue Lips. The conversation is aimed to share the worries and wisdom by the woman for the woman of the woman in the water sector. In here, we hope to learn about the water endeavors of the woman in a regular disciplined manner, like a master class. Today in this session, we are here to listen and know more about Swati Ganeshan. So welcome, Swati, to Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water. Truly excited to have you in our session and eager to learn and listen about your water endeavors. I hope you are okay that we are recording your session and we are also live for this conversation. Are you there?
Yeah, I am there. It's okay. It's all fine.
Okay, thank you so much. So before I move to the conversation, it's a good idea to have a brief introduction of our guest today. Swati Ganeshan specializes in energy transition, climate policy, sustainable development goals, and international affairs. She has over 16 years of research experience and 2.5 years of media experience. Her research is largely focused on policy and geopolitical analysis and multilateral cooperation in energy transition, climate policy, oceans, and SDGs, as we discussed about her specialization as well. She is currently a visiting fellow at the Chintan Research Foundation. Prior to this, she was a RISE fellow with Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, deputed to work as a full-time consultant for the International Relations Division and G20 cell of the Ministry of News and Renewable Energy, of the Government of India. Her primary work involved contributing to and supporting the negotiations, research, and analysis work for the Energy Transition Working Group under India's G20 presidency. Her biography is really long and very interesting and goes from a spectrum of water to energy, from international to national. And I'm keeping it short so that we can straight away start the conversation here. So I hope you are ready for this candid conversation. It is about the girl, the woman we would like to know, whose name is Swati Ganeshan. Fine? Yeah.
Yes.
Let's
Okay.
start. Yeah. I see through your biography, you have a spectrum of experience. And I must also share at this point in time that you have been our speaker at W4W Foundation in the Wednesdays for Water series. And therefore, welcome back, Swati. And as I was telling you, that this is more to acknowledge and appreciate the contribution of women in water, environment, and allied sectors. Just curious to understand from you, when did you realize you belong to the sector, or when was it that you completely soaked yourself that now from here on, I'm into it, environment, water, energy? Would you like to take us through your life journey from those early days?
Sure, Mansi. First of all, thank you very much for having me back. So thanks a lot to Mansi for this. I will let me also give you one or two house rules because I am working from home right now. So if there are some noises that are coming out from, these are the kids at the back. So my apologies on forefront. They are going in live, so I can't do much about it. But
just to interrupt here, sorry, just to interrupt here, we would love to have those interruptions because that is something professionally, socially, politically, we all have to start accepting as lives of women cannot be only bracketed into profession. So I am also at home, just to let you know. So let's go on. Sorry to disturb. Yeah.
No.
So just don't feel embarrassed about it. I would love if you have a dog and it pops in, or if you have a child that pops in, no problem.
My children pop in a lot, so they
Let them come, no issues.
so
Part of
that
life, we
happens.
are going
Yes,
to have those
yes, yes.
questions also.
So that is one. But other than that, there are these simple interruptions of a home which tend to come in and bite. But other than that, I think we are on the track. Um, so to begin with, I think the question is very short, but the answer is pretty long and
I
all
know,
over the
I
same.
know.
Um, to start off with, where I I always wanted to, since in the school years, I wanted to get into media and journalism, which was obviously a big part of mine. So my first bachelor's and my master's were in journalism and mass communication area. However, even in that, while I was pursuing that, I was always interested only focusing on global issues, global affairs, larger, issues of global interest, and not just of one particular country or anything, something like that. So that was one area. And I was always interested in doing more intensive research in these areas before actually parking myself into the space as well. So, which I did take up slowly during my master's. But then I realized that I really wanted to push the limits and do much more in-depth work in within the international relations area. So I went for another master's, for which when I went outside, where I started looking at international relations as a subject matter, where I was looking at security issues and but within the larger traditional security issues domain, what always was of interest to me was the non-traditional security part, wherein you get water, you get resources, you get energy, all of these aspects, human security, and many other aspects started coming into your discussion. And they were becoming a key part of your larger core international affair discussions as well. And that was of a big interest to me at that time. Because I always thought that I wanted to look at global issues, whether one wanted to look at it, whether it would be energy or climate, or at that point of time, anything, or terrorism or anything. But I wanted to look at issues that, spread across the globe. Several countries are affected. How do you manage to go about from a multilateral perspective, unilaterally as well, but also from a multilateral aspect? And that's the reason I went into non-traditional issues. Now, when I did finish my master's, I came back to India because I wanted to work here only. I didn't want to work outside. So when I came back, I had the opportunity to either teach or get into full form research. So I decided to go the other side to research. I found teaching a little bit boring because before I left for my second master's, I had taught for some time and I was not very pleased with that because I thought it was a little bit of too much of the same thing going on and on and on. So I got a little bored. So I wanted to get into, I thought research would be a better suited area for me because I wanted to do more and more work and in-depth work in new areas and issues. And that's how I landed up working and ended up working at Terry. So I joined as a research associate, moved on to becoming a fellow and an area convener and so on and so forth. So I spent roughly coolly around 2.5 years there before making the decision to move on into consulting and other space. So there, what I did was I started like any other newbie. I started working on very and also new, how do you say, core issues of energy, which was oil, uh, coal, gas, the general um, aspects. Then over a period of time, I moved on and I explore, and I had the tendency to explore more and more, wanted to work on more and more. So I started doing more work in other areas as well. So then from oil, gas, coal, then I started working on minerals, which included uranium. I started working on nuclear energy as a whole. Then worked on hydropower for some time. And slowly around in 2014, 2015, started getting into water security issues on a much more intrinsic way. So when I did start doing that, one of the first projects that we were doing was around GBM Basin, which was on Ganga Brahmaputra Basin, and looking at India-Bangladesh relations, largely on a policy level. So that was one first entry into that time. But I was a part of a team, and I was able to was fortunate enough to do some field visits to the border areas, look at the flowing Ganges between India and Bangladesh, the flow of movement of people. So those were very interesting aspects that I was exposed to, where I was able to talk to a lot of experts in the area, living and working in the GTM basin specifically. So that was my first entry from a very, how do you say, microscopically to a field work one. After that, I moved on to work on water security, largely from a global politics to national level as well. So that I have done. Um, but beyond that, I started around 2017, 2018. I wanted to push through a new topic, which was not a big thing at that point of time in India, or probably not even around the globe, but was very minimal, which was blue economy. Because that was because I wanted to work on a new area which had, how do you say, where global issues like international governance, climate, sustainable development, also energy, all of these, climate, everything comes together in like a hot pot. And there was nothing was more interesting at the time for me than oceans, because that's everything was coming together on all the issues that I wanted to work on one nice big basket. Uh, and as they say, every keep saying in every movie, every place you go, that, oceans is the least scientifically explored area. I'm pretty sure, because when I started looking around, there is this condensed amount of scientific work which is there in so many issues. There was also limited work in many, many aspects of which were related to oceans, but still needed quite a lot of work in. So for me, that became a very big interest area. So I really had to pursue it and push a lot of funders to put in funds so that we can actually pursue it, build network. Because for me, I have always realized that when you bring people together who work in that sector, but they don't know what's happening in each sector, then they understand the linkages. Because I have always started, and I've always, when I started at the beginning in 2009 within the research area, it was the first thing is that nothing can work in silos. I come from a hardcore, international relations background. But what I realized that for people who work in the security and the international global affairs have a very limited knowledge of the larger climate and energy work, and vice versa. And what I realized that, and both was very, very important. The reason is most of your negotiations were happening in this platform, and much of the science on which you have to back on is on this side. But the linkages were very limited, whether it would be at a government level, or maybe, a few groups would probably put together. But the larger connections, not just beyond these groups, was also something never there. So for me, it was always going into my group of people and saying, you should look at this, and then coming here and telling them, you should look at that. So that had become quite a habit for me. So I was the only person standing up and asking a very quirky question in the other group, where there were generals and former, marshals, and everybody sitting together, and they were thinking, why is she asking about climate when we are talking about larger global security issues? And the same thing used to happen when I used to do it in this side. But for me, I persisted on it because I know that that is important. And over a period of time, I think now there is a full realization that you need to do both sides in much discussion. And this is something which was also present and absent in the ocean area as well. So for me, that was of interest. So my all my pet projects in the beginning were only to build that connection. For me, before I put research, I wanted people to understand that there is a scope for research and a scope to do much more inter-aligned research. So somebody from finance never thought that there is so much of scope to work in the ocean sector. For me, I think pushing someone with a pure finance background to write on blue economy for finance was a game changer, because at that point of time there was nobody looking at these things. I mean, there were people who were looking at the blue economy's impact on the growth or thing, but I wanted the person to look at, if you're looking at finance, then if you're looking at GDP also, that's fine. But how are you accounting for it? How are you going to place a systematic approach to it? So I wanted someone to think through. So, they were very good colleagues from very different institutions who were very happy to come on board and be part of these discussions, where we could probably slowly, over a period of time, really put together. So from 2017 onwards, I did quite a lot of this. And by 2020, I came to a position where I said, now everybody will put their heads together and then they will all write papers. And by the time now I have built a rapport to ask people to write about certain topics, which was not there anymore. And I also had very nice and very good colleagues in both in Terry office at that time, as well as in the Go office, a wonderful place. And who were looking at marine issues, but were not looking at the other aspects. So for me, that became that group, and that's how my whole work in this area, oceans and water overall specifically, tend to come in. And that translated into a book, a lot of reports, a couple of papers, and then I also did one report on Asia Pacific blue economy, which was very different, and nobody was looking at it as a regional work. So for me, that was all these small steps to get into this area, and understand what are the gaps, also some of the great good areas where you can actually really put people together to work on, where there is a lot of potential as well. For me, I think in research we also come into thinking that we have reached a pinnacle. What next? And for me, it was always 10 to 15 years ahead, thinking, no, you should never be out of topics, right? So, for me, then I had bundles of it in my head, that what I want to do. So I just need people to fund me so that I keep doing it. So that is the reason. So yeah, so this is simple, as simple I could.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for this elaborate yet very simple way to explain. And that also tells about your engagement in different way, because it was required, because usually we are doing a very short bio so that you can speak from your own heart. And it's very important to understand the way you were talking about water from the scholarship of hydrodiplomacy, from the scale of Ganga to Brahmaputra with international relations, and then going to oceans. I wish I could really use this space to talk about it endlessly, because we both are water diseased, I must say. But then I should bring back the focus on discussing about you as a woman in the water sector. I could understand much of things what you are doing these days. So I'm just curious to unlearn from you in terms of things that gives you joy and things that have worried you. You have made it very clear with your opening remark. So just curious, did people look at you in the beginning as a research activist, or and slowly it moved on to becoming a research
No,
consultant?
Generally, people
curious.
look at you as a weirdo. That's it. Uh,
Not putting a.
there is a very strong reason as well,
Mm,
because I was hell bent to get into international relations issues anyway, even when I was doing media. And now the point was that when I was looking at international relations issues, I was also looking at hardcore security issues as well as non-traditional issues, a whole gamut of issues. Um, it's very interesting is that the kind of topics I wanted to pick on were something that nobody wanted to look on because nobody thought
mhm,
they are important. Uh, and I was going into rooms where there were very highly experienced people, and probably several of them with full lad uniforms in the security sector, people, diplomats, and so many ambassadors, and at that point of time some of these issues were really not of interest in that time, 2009, 10, all of this. It's slowly.
maybe, yes, their
Yes.
institutional prerogatives may be different than
Yeah.
cross-cutting the way you were imagining the sectors to be.
So for me, I never had a doubt that everything is cross cutting.
Hmm.
I So if I talk about energy, I know that there is so much of a big role of water. So one of my first questions would always be about that. For example, if somebody used to talk to me about solar, I would say, so where are you getting the water to clean the panels?
Hmm. I can
Okay, so
relate with when you say this.
So, so for me, the requirement, so for me, if I have to say food, then obviously I'm looking at energy and water as well. For me, if I'm looking at water, then energy and food are also a big thing. So
Absolutely.
I really can't untangle things in my head, because for me, I think it's all about, you may want to keep verticals, but then you need to have these horizontals that blend your work in,
Absolutely.
which is very, very important, because a lot of people do not understand that, um, any kind of strategic um, changes in one sector has a very big
Mhm.
domino effect in other sectors. So,
Absolutely.
and it may not be very visible now, but it will be definitely visible in the
Over
in a
time,
mid-term or a short-term or a long-term period.
long term.
And
Absolutely.
I always look at it from that perspective. So if you're making a decision today, how are you going to look at it within 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 to 8 years, 8 to 10, 10 to 15, so on and so forth. Uh,
Yeah.
so, so for us, I think, at least from my perspective, that is very, very important. That's why I'm always looking at points to see what blends, what does not blend, how much is blending. And pretty much all the time, you would see that there's linkages between this sector and that sector and half of the sectors. And there would be a
Absolutely.
fallout somewhere or other. So, so that has been something that I always pin on. That's for sure.
Yes.
Um, so for me, that was very, very important, always.
I will pick a point
Yeah,
from
you
here.
tend to become a
Sorry.
weirdo because you always keep clipping
Yeah.
on it, because you say, no, no, have you also looked at what are the impacts in this sector? And the person is thinking, I am not looking at this sector. Why is the person asking? But the point is, see, it's the same like when you're doing research work and somebody asks you, what are the caveats in your research?
Hmm.
And this is like the caveats, because much of it would be unsaid if you are not at least doing at least a brief overlay of it somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
You remind me of Nobel laureate Elinor Ostrom, and also the fact that for a long time, society was looking at things in a linear way. And it's much of the complexity of the society and ecology has come as a new era where we are talking about complexity and interconnectedness, you know. So that's very good to know. And I'm going to pull back the conversation back to the biographical point because professional and personal lives are also interconnected, and we are trying to blend and balance and everything. So I would like to know from Swati, uh, how are you really managing your professional and personal lives where both are equally demanding, both are passionate works? and both requires some level of perfectionism, and especially knowing all of you, many of the girls now, um, whom I am observing very closely, because before I sit for this kind of interaction, I am reading a lot about all of you. Just to let you know, uh, how do you really see life from this interconnectedness of personal and professional life, and what are the mantras you draw, because we all have this tendency of carrying this superwoman syndrome in all the fields. How are you doing it? Because these conversations are very important even for the younger generation and also for peer group, you know.
Um, See, I don't know, to be very, very frank. I do it on a daily basis. I get up and I start. That's it. I think for me, so to just give you a brief, I at my home I have my father-in-law. My husband is there. I have two kids, and but I have a huge age gap between them. My elder one is 11, and my younger one is 1.5 years old. So I have quite a lot of work on both sides from that perspective. But I have to say, thanks to the support that I get. Um, I more than I would say, it would be a very bad word to use is help. But because I think this is a partnership, and from that
Mm.
perspective, my husband does toe to door, and sometimes I have to do because he is hands-on on everything. So that is definitely a plus. Including my father-in-law has always been very good support. You know, when it came to me going to work, because after my son was born, I had that. You always have this in the beginning. When should I go? Whether should I go and all? And he was the one who pushed me and said, "I am there. Why are you bothered? So why don't you go back home and I can take care?" And that is there, definitely.
Mm.
So that is there. My parents, no questions asked. They have always just silently, just pushed me ahead. Never said, "Don't do this, don't do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you not?" So I have never had that pressure, to be frank, to be very, very frank. I've never had the pressure to go and do engineering. Considering I am yeah, I am actually a Tambram, which means, there is this thing that no, you have to do engineering, doctor, or something much
Mm.
more little from a thing. But that did not come, which is generalized in this in our part of the thing communities. But that was not there. I was told you can go ahead and do whatever you feel like, and we will support you. And hence, I was free to do much, 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 and differently in many, many things. So kudos to them for that.
Absolutely,
And
kudos to them. And yeah, and I can relate with when you were talking about your field of work as more inter-alliance than monolithic or monodisciplinary. Same works at home as well, where we have to talk about partnerships and support systems, rather than one or someone is overburdened as compared
yeah.
to other.
No, actually, somehow, okay, I would completely agree that women are definitely a little always overburdened by many, many things. And it's not just coming from the family, it's also from the society, which is usually what
Absolutely.
you get,
That is why
which
we
is
are
fine.
discussing it. It's
Yeah,
not
which
from
is fine.
family.
I mean, I think, okay, fine, it's a challenge that you have to work around with. That's okay. Uh, for me, I would say that all the men in my life has been as they say, for the success of a man, there is always a woman. I would also say, or for my success up till in my professional life, I would say all the men, thanks to them, because they have always been there to do whatever it was required. So for me, that part is very, very important. Um, what I have also realized is that from the point of view of balancing a professional, there was always a time when one would take a little bit more from you. Um, I
Yes.
I'm apologies. There is a lot of discussions on. LinkedIn and all the other social media posts about work-life balance and how you should maintain it, and it is so important, and you have to keep that thing. Coming from my experience, that does not happen. If
Mhm.
one or the other time one side is going to take more time of yours, and
Absolutely.
then you will have to give up on the other side
There's
to give
always
some to this
opportunity
side.
cost to everything. Yes.
Yeah. So that would always happen. So probably
Mm.
you will take a decision to be a little bit more, provide some more professional time at one point of time because that is required. And on the other side, if for a personal time, you may push your professional life and say, no, this is what I need to do. And from my perspective, it's an individual's decision on how they really
Absolutely.
want to
Absolutely. We take
charge
a
it.
call. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's all about passion as well. How do you
Mm.
look at your work? If you are very interested in your work, very passionate about it, you will do whatever is it to, give it as much as you're giving it to your professional life, and then trying to balance it between. So that is there. So the passion that you have for your personal life, and if you have it for your, professional life as well, then you will make those uh, things.
You make choices, and sometimes you have, it's also, I think, the way you look at the choices you make, how emotionally and spiritually you connect with them and feel content. I think that is also extremely important in that case. That brings me to the second round of questions. Very simple question, as you are seeing the conversation is flowing like water. When you were mentioning that you used to be in those rooms to discuss something weirdo as unexpected by the set of people out there, I am just curious because I'm sure you have also faced it as I have. Often we are surrounded by men talking about water, men talking about diplomacy, men talking about international relations. In your case, if I look at the political landscape around the world, there are barely few women out there, including security forces. Do you realize the dearth or the shortage of women leadership, both in the environment sector, in marine sector, in global diplomacy, in hydro diplomacy? Uh, did you realize it? Were you part of that minority in those discussions? And if yes, why do you think we women have not yet reached there?
See, there is a dearth of women in every place. That is there.
We are minority not by population but by profession or position.
See, that is there. I would never say. Obviously, first of all, I should also say this beforehand before discussing some of these things because I consider myself at a very privileged position. Um,
Absolutely, we are privileged. At least we can talk
um,
about it.
yeah. For me, the fact that I can sit here and talk about women and about women's place in leadership or women in the larger professional background, that itself is a big deal. I always say that what equality means to me may have a very different definition when it comes to somebody else because they look at equality from a very different viewpoint. I think that concept of equality itself has different perceptions and perspectives. So one probably has to look at it from that perspective. Having said that, for me, I think foremost is more investment in the education sector, but also in the education sector, which is beyond your general, courses, uh, looking into other areas. So there is now a lot of programs on climate and energy, sustainable development,
Yes.
definitely. But I think what we are also missing is that, those how do you say, somebody who is looking at climate, also looking at finance, which is tough. There
Mm.
are courses on climate and finance, there are works on climate and health, so on and so forth. Um, So that is there, but more intensive work of, that would itself will open up so many channels for women to pursue. Uh, that's, for me, at least, I see a window of opportunity in that area. Having in context to leadership, I think I would also say it also depends on uh, how the entire sector is already shaped.
Mm-hmm.
Where women are and where men are, and how are we placing ourselves within the conversation as well. You know,
Mm.
um, for me, it's always been that I have to show high amount of professionalism to ensure that I have a role to play,
Mm.
wherein my work takes me to places where people accept my work and not look at it from a gender perspective, or not from my
Absolutely. Mm.
from that perspective, from a woman to a man perspective, but look at only the work. I think for me, work is what would define what we do later. I think
Mm.
somehow, sometimes what happens is, now that you're in a privileged position, you also have thinking, why should I seek something because I'm a woman? It should be given only based on my work and the performance I do. For me, somehow that is something that that probably looks like a way or a means to negate the larger discussion. Only look at the
Mm.
performance. Don't look at the person. I mean, character-wise, there are so many women who are, let's say, maybe nice, or maybe rude, or maybe so many. And the same way, men can be also very nice and rude. So if you're looking at it from a character perspective, only look at whether that person is nice, or the person is rude. But don't see the
Absolutely.
woman is nice, or the man is nice, or the man is rude, or the woman is rude. For me, I think I would say the person is good, person is nice, person is not. I would like to go from that perspective. And probably I'm seeing it from a very, very higher privileged position now that comes in.
Indeed.
Then I always caution myself to also utter certain things, because I cannot speak for a lot of women who do not have never been able to step out of their house. For them, probably just being able to go out and take a round of their neighborhood itself would be a big deal. If that
Mm.
is what there are some women are going through, then for me, I think the only way I would like to see is that you look at it from a performance perspective, look at it from the kind of work we put in, whether it's a man or a woman, doesn't matter. And then you judge people on that perspective. For me, that is also very, very important, because sometimes what happens is you forget the work, but you look at the person, and then you think, no, no, let's do this, let's say. That kind of prejudice tends to come in. And for
Mm.
me, that would be very important. I that sometimes feel it's good to only look at a paper and see the person there, and they're defined in their work, before you look at their face and then make a assumption. So that's, at least I see. Maybe a lot of people don't see it that way. So for me, it's
Absolutely.
yeah. So that is, I think, when it comes to women in leadership, or women in larger, getting more roles. Um, I think when we out loudly say, look at my work, look at what I have contributed, that itself takes you on that board, because then people have to look at your work. You are not asking them to look at you as a woman and say, as a woman, I have done so much. I would like to say, as a person who is in this sector, why don't you look at my work and tell me if what I have done is of value or not? So I want that kind of, recognition,
Oh, I think we all
largely
wish to
because,
have
yeah, because that
that
would
kind of
probably
situation.
also, take out a lot of these other divisions on, like, so nobody would doubt, when they look at your work, nobody would doubt whether you can go on a field visit or not. If you have a concern, you can outrightly say, okay, because of a personal issue, I may not be able to go. And that could be even a guy could say that I have, you know, some personal issue, I can't go. But I think from the work itself, somebody should be able to say, oh, this person can do this. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
that is the kind of, projection I would like to make. So that is where I feel. So sometimes, it's very interesting when you go to a conference and you see in a panel there are a whole lot of men. And the organizer comes to you and says, we had a hard time trying to get a woman who has excelled in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so many professions that women don't go at all. Because there are
Mm.
these conditionalities that are already there, which we
Mm.
we ourselves soak into. Uh, and these are not from somebody else. These are conditionalities that are soaked into. So from that perspective, we are, we think that we may not be able to do. Uh,
Yes.
so there are so many times. I mean, I can say unconsciously, I must have also thought so many times, how can I do this? So this is there for not just one woman or two women. Pretty much everyone probably has gone through this one or twice or thrice in their life, or many, many times more as well. But I think when you look at the work and then you go by that, then you are not thinking that this person, okay, this person has done field visits, so it's not a big deal for the person. So you go by that. You look at the past experience, and then you create that essence on how the performance should be. So for me, that probably is a way and a pathway to bring in more women into different fields, because that way even you are not judging yourself from that perspective. You are thinking, okay, if this could be done, yes, we can do this again, kind of a thing. So for me, I think that is one thing, big thing. Other than that, I think you know there is a whole lot of discussion about men also. They should also give. There is a lot of space that needs to be built for women to be part of the leadership. I think one of the first things to do, about not about just leadership. I think one of the first things that all of us need to do, whether it's a man or a woman, is to speak up and talk about what we are thinking in whatever space you are. Um,
Mm.
you may have a very different opinion, you may not have a different opinion, you may have something positive or constructive to say, you may not have something constructive, but you may have some other completely different perspective. But the point is to say and speak up first. I think speaking up itself puts you in a good place, because now you are
Yes.
visible, seen, and they know that you know what you're talking about. I think that's very, very important. When I say speak up, I also expect people to do their homework before they speak up. So whether it is a
Absolutely.
man or a woman doesn't matter, but please, that is very important. But what I'm trying to also say is that one needs to first create a space for themselves only by first telling people that this is what I bring on table. I think when you start doing that, then any other position, whether it is leadership, it will come forward later in your life when you get into that area. So for people who are younger generation, I think for me, professionalism is most important. I think you need to get into the work passionately and with a lot of professionalism. I think when you are being tasked to do something, you should have the passion to do that and passion to do more. When the
Mm.
work is interesting, you will anyway do more. And when you anyway
Absolutely.
do, and when anyway you do more, you will end up bringing on new ideas into the table, because that more always brings more innovation. That more always brings more ideas. That more area, that 5-10% extra is what probably is going to build the kind of research work that you can do for the next 3, 5, 7 years. Because that more will allow you to expand your horizon. At least because in my first when I joined Teddy, my first boss, a woman, amazing person, and I a very good mentor, and I learned quite a lot. Who had her, her kids, her, her position as a director as well, and you learn how one person is juggling. Obviously, one day one is more and the other is less, but what you also learn is that you do your work and you speak about it and you create visibility for that work and for your research, and you create that voice, and that anyway makes you visible everywhere, whether you are consciously looking for it or unconsciously, but you will create a space, because once people know that you do are a part of this sector, you understand the sector, and you have a good perspective on the sector, that itself paves the way for a much larger, you know, work wise, professional wise, or even from, let's say, position wise aspect. So for me, that is very, very important. I personally believe that, because she used to be, my previous boss used to say, while you do the whole work, then spend 1 hour reading something completely off the table, which means not of your sector, nothing to do with your sector,
Mm.
to some other sector. The reason is then you will realize there are so many things that you can do. Because once, for example, there is this whole discussion on AI, which is happening
Mm.
nowadays. Somebody is interested in AI, somebody is interested in big data, somebody is interested in computing. But for me, then it's very interesting is how do you want to bring this into your sector? Because this is going, if it is becoming
Absolutely.
big, it's going to seep into your sector. So be ahead of
Mm.
it. And that happens when you really do that 10% more, which is the hardest part. 10% more will always be the hardest part. The reason is because you're so into your own work, which you're trying to deliver a project, you're trying to deliver your timelines and deliverables. The 10% will always be very difficult. But if you are able to put that 10%, it does give you the benefits, not today, not tomorrow, but long after, and you will see the impact of it. For me,
Mm.
that was a very big, interesting way to do it, because I said, why? I'm quite a interested learner. I think every day one can learn. Even if I have a huge amount of experience, for me, when I give you my experience, while I'm giving you my experience, I'm also learning, because that way I will
Absolutely.
also see, oh, I did these mistakes. So now I can correct myself. And while I'm telling you, you might just tell me something that I did not know. And then I will like to soak up in. So for me, soaking up is very important, which I like to do every day. I learn from my kids, and pretty much, every time there is a wheel of change. And I've realized that, all of these, the guys bring a lot of change into me. When I was not married, I used to be like this huge, the feminist danda and all. But when I did get married, and I realized that the partnerships that come from when you have that understanding also solidify how you do professional work as well. They will probably support you much, much, much further to also do much bigger and broader work. So it's like, for example, now if you do work, I'm always thinking, my children at least should not be embarrassed by what I have done in my life. And also with whatever value I'm trying to put in my work and
Yes.
what I'm trying to see, that is something that they can also learn from and they can pick up. And while I'm doing this, I'm also learning from them on how to do so many things. Sometimes you relearn things in your life, because as you grow up, you will learn to be less compassionate, probably also not inquisitive, lose your curiosity, um, also that innocence, you know, going into things with a very positive mind. That itself is something that after so many years you tend to lose them. But but your kids give you that, because they have this full on energy in them, and they are doing
Yes.
this on a day-to-day basis, and then you realize, it's this is a very good way to do things, because when once you are
Mm.
also positive about things, there are many, many doors of interest, opportunities, research work that opens up. You may not like to do it this way, but you may do it other way. So for me, that was always
Mm-hmm.
important. So why do I need to always put the pen and paper to task? It is always not, research can only be done this way. You can probably network with people, you can talk to people, you can put together different ways of doing these things. And there are many, many ways that one can explore how to bring together research or bring together people with in-depth work to come together and speak to each other. So for me, those things were very interesting, because
Mm.
sometimes people do not realize that, somebody who is doing some work in some small town may have deep impacts on how you would probably look at the same work. So for
Mm.
me, that is a huge learning, because at one point of time, when I started doing blue economy, I brought in, I asked a couple of people who were pure scientists who are working in applied technologies in, offshore energy resources. And they came, there was one person from IIT Kharagpur and somebody from IIT Kanpur and different places. I asked them to, why don't you come and join us? And they said, what would we do in this conference? I said, please present your work, whether even if it is the most scientific way you want to talk about, but please present your work. Because once they presented what they were working on, there were so many people who came and said, oh, if you're working on
Mm.
that, we have realized that, there is an X person who's also working on that. There is another government, which is funding projects in this area. Or they saw a potential that, oh, this is a very good portion of it, which would be commercialized or could be part of the larger, structure, whether it could be from ports or whether it could be from the side of, looking at travel, tourism, so many factors. So it's very interesting to see how, small nodes can come together if people put in their heads for these issues. So for me, that was very, very important, is that you do that,
Interesting.
yeah, push to people.
Yeah, very interesting. What is coming out very clear from the conversation with you is the role of interconnectedness, by interalliance of disciplines, but also being open to new ideas, new learning, new areas for that matter. So in this situation, I must ask you a question on uh, the idea of platforms, the idea of councils and association. And I'm holding back a question on leadership because your response was quite, for me, interesting. At the same time, as a researcher, I take it as one respondent's worldview. And of course, I would also like to live a day when we don't have to talk about women and gender. And if history had been kind to really value what woman thinks, what woman says, I don't think this research and this conversation was even required. So, as a researcher, I'm holding back my outlook on this, that there is a serious gender problem in the water sector, in of course in all political sector as well. When we speak today, we have serious political crisis of women being represented in not only in our parliament but also in all sectors including water, but I'm focusing on water only. But because you are heavily convinced, and I like the way you put about the interalliances, I would like to know from you the role of councils and associations or platforms or these interalliances. I am asking this question with a backdrop of being the national president of the Water Resource Council of Women Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where we are nearly 100 women on board. And this is a good time to let you know that you must be on board with us and please join us. We need more voices,
So,
and we need more voices who think in those ideas of performance based. Having said that, performance is definitely very important, but history tells us, research tells us, the path for leadership or path for success of a woman is longer than a path of a man. Maybe the definition of success itself needs redefined, because personally, that's not from research, personally to me, success is a masculine word, and I personally don't seek successful to be successful. But literature tells us whatever is the definition or benchmark of success, women have a longer route to that benchmark. So, in that situation, I seek the role of council, association, platform, and networks, as you were talking about, what do you think these councils or associations or networks or platforms can really help? I mean, in your case, you may speak in terms of gender neutral, but this question is more aligned to talking about how women can benefit becoming part of that. I mean, everyone benefits in terms of, again, what literature tells me, especially younger people and all. But I would like to know from you if you are part of some council, some platform or network, and how does it benefit you, or do you think they have a role to play in making and shaping career in certain way?
Yeah, of course, yes, they do have. They have a lot of role to play.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree with your analysis that obviously you have a longer route to go to. For a woman, obviously it is. There is no doubt about that. What I am also trying to say is that um, you will see, as someone who is educated and probably in a role, the first point of judging would always happen is if I ask as a woman and if I put that role as in the beginning and then I seek something, that will always come back to hit me
Of
later in the
course,
time.
of
All right.
course.
So for me, right now, as I said, performance and visibility by being and speaking up
Yes.
is more important because if I negate that, if
Hmm.
I am able to negate that today, I also create a much better path for the people who are back, really, because
Absolutely, absolutely.
when they
It's
come up to my
hmm.
position, they will probably always be judged by performance also. Right now, I am I and probably many others are fighting to be judged by performance only, right?
Yes, indeed.
But this fight would probably help them uh, to have a much easier route to something. Also, having said that, um, yes, you will have to put in extra efforts uh, to probably be acknowledged in many ways. Um, Even though I would say in the research sector, uh, you know,
Hmm.
there is, I have at least, I come from in Terry, there is a big group of women. There was always a much bigger percentage of women than men. So I have always
Hmm.
been in that situation. And I've realized that later also in many, many areas, I have seen the participation of women in research has always been much, much higher. Where you are talking about is when it comes to leadership and going up. Yes, you need to put in your best foot forward to actually push yourself into those zones. That is always there. But I think there are so many intricate issues that all of us have to deal with on a daily basis,
Yes.
whether if it is a marriage or a childbirth or so many things. The route also becomes longer because you are doing all those things. You are the one who has to take the break. You have to do, you have to add on things. So invariably that adds on timeline, a longer timeline to you anyway. Uh, and the reason I always push on performance is the reason is that tomorrow, even if your work is being looked at or you are being appraised at any point of time, one should say that, no, this person came in on the basis of performance.
Hmm,
We did not take the
absolutely.
person because it's 5%,
Undoubtedly. Yes.
5% reservation for women, or no, out of the 10 members, one has to be women. That's why we included her in. We had no option. That should
That is
not
what is
be what
happening
somebody.
nowadays. That's why we are doing these conversations, and to
Yeah.
really
So for
break that
me, that
jinx.
is that is the reason I say. So that is the reason I push that you look at my work and then let it speak for. So when I
So
do,
next, sorry, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that
Go
is
ahead.
one. Second is I think I am. So I had I'm part of GW Net as well, the Global
Hmm.
Women's Network for Energy Transition, and under that last year, from 2024 to mid of I was given the opportunity to mentor a young lady from the Central Asia on renewable energy, which was a
Hmm.
very good, interesting task because I got to know about Central Asia as well and largely about her own country as well, while I was also able to help her. to gauge on how she wants to,
Mm.
set her
Mm-hmm.
pathway. For me, mentorship definitely helps because you learn from someone who's senior on how to navigate a lot of these new things that you will go. So
Mm.
even after 16 plus, I'm sure there are several things that would be something that I will have to navigate in the coming years. And if you have someone senior, they can give you their thought processes on the same thing. The same happens with people who are coming after you. Um, for me, I think also it depends on how secure you are in your position. Because when it comes, if you are, as you said, you don't want to use the word success, I would say one should be very content and fulfilled with what they are doing first.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely. For
you
me,
should have a
success is a
hunger.
very subjective thing. I mean, I will
Yeah.
define my benchmark to be successful, not the way society decides. I mean, that was kind of a rebel thing right from childhood for me. I mean, why should
For me,
anyone decide for me whether I am successful or not?
yes, Vinod. Yeah, that is true. I am sure of it. But for me, it's about how do you feel when you get up in the morning? Uh, are you happy with what you're doing? Do you think
Absolutely.
you are on the right path? Whatever you have done today, have you been able to do something that you wanted to do? If you're able to do that much, I think you have done very well for yourself. At least I go by that. Um, Chasing anything specifically, for me, I like chasing very interesting work. That always interests me. I think my
Hmm.
first question always is, काम वो बताओ उसके बाद हम बात करेंगे बाकी चीजें. So for me that is very important. I need to know what work is there, how do you want to approach the work, what do you want to do in it, what kind of people will be involved in the work, where do you want to take it further. And for me, I like to look at a very long term work, where in the sense that anything, one may think that this is very small today, but I always
Hmm.
think that there is much more opportunity to expand and take it forward. So for me, that is very important. So from that perspective, I think mentor helps you to, refine and redefine, and also, how do you say, reassemble your, thinking in many, many ways. So,
Absolutely.
and any kind of council or any kind of, gathering of group of people, whether like-minded individuals or whether all women or all co-ed, however you want to say, is that that there should be a exchange of notes everywhere, exchange of
Absolutely.
ideas, exchange of notes. Um, Also, it's not about saying great, I am I'm a great person. Now you learn from me. That's not my thing. Is if you have done this, for me the question is, how do you want to take this forward? One,
Hmm.
have you taken it forward? And if you want to take it forward, how would you like to do it? Two would be interesting to know is, what kind of people did you work with? How did you interact with them? What was the outcome for you from that perspective? Third would be, while you were working on this and how you succeeded, what kind of challenges you faced from personal front, professional front. Those kinds of questions are more interesting because that also
Very.
tells you how
Hmm.
one has been able to navigate their way through these things. Because at the end of the day, whenever you do work in the sector, you will never be doing it alone. You will be doing it with a group of people. You will
Absolutely.
be doing with a group of stakeholders. And each
Hmm.
stakeholder has valid points. They come from with their own thing. So that, no, 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 no. So I would say I have never been an activist in any kind. For me,
Hmm.
it is always very factually base.
Hmm.
Again, if somebody is saying we are having a trouble of any sort, so for me it is then work on the evidence to find out if they are having trouble, why they are having trouble. Uh, and
Yes.
for me, that is how you will always, get to a good point to further discuss things. Because just by saying no, no, हमें ये करना है, हमें नहीं करना है, that does not work out. If you
Hmm.
want to say something, then present the logic for it, provide a rationale for it. If you're providing the rationale, you provide why you have to do this. You need to have very evidence-based, fact-based, and also highly good, reasons which are based on your societal impressions, on your impressions of the larger sector, stakeholders, everything, so that you provide a
Yes,
composite figure. So that
absolutely.
is very important to me. And, in a council or any kind of association, you get to meet different people and they
Yeah,
bring in
definitely.
very different ideas. Sometimes you would find that they actually have some genuine concerns. So, there are some people who might be on one side and say, nahi, nahi, ye hame karna hi nahi chahiye. And the guy who comes on board actually gives you, these pointers to understand that what you are saying is absolutely wrong, because they come with genuine concerns as well. So one has to be very open-minded about it. I think we should not
Mm.
go in anywhere, in any project or in any place, with already an structured question in mind. For me, I always, when I used to look at survey questionnaires, one of the first questions to see is whether it's a leading question or not. It
Okay,
should be a question,
interesting.
yeah, because if you're leading someone to say something specifically, then you're not allowing them to actually express what they really want to say. They would say, अच्छा आप ये हाँ तो आपको यही चाहिए तो हम आपको
But
यही बता रहे
that also
हैं.
depends on the kind of research, So
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
does.
I
So,
hope, yeah.
yeah,
I
because
hope
see, if
this
I have a number,
conversation is flowing the way you would like it to, with small questions, and I'm finding it very enjoying, to be honest.
no, for me, it's simple. I only look at this matter. It's that even if I have a leading question, if I have a fact attached to it, then that leading question has a good weight to it. And then I can
Okay.
say, somebody says, आप पूछ रहे हैं, क्यों पूछ रहे हैं ऐसे? तो सर, क्योंकि हमें ये पता है कि हमें पता चला है, तो इसलिए आपसे पूछ रहे हैं. So then they
हाँ हाँ
realize, okay, the person is not coming in without the evidence or without doing their homework. So for me, that is very important, because sometimes people also think ये इनको तो वैसा टाइप का आंसर चाहिए, तो इसीलिए तो
हाँ हाँ
हम
हाँ. So
ऐसे नहीं.
that's a prejudice. Yes, that those
Yeah.
are prejudices.
So
Absolutely.
they no. So I may not have actually consciously done it, but when the person is reading my, he
You
may think
carry.
that I am prejudiced. For me, I think
Absolutely.
prejudice will always happen. It always comes in.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
We
prejudiced.
cannot escape
Yeah,
those.
everybody is heavily prejudiced, including me.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. We cannot
yeah,
escape. Yeah. And
you can't
research
escape. But
brings those biases. Yeah.
yeah, but I think one of the good aspects of research is also to remove as much bias as possible. Is that
Absolutely.
while you may go in with a bias, you may go in with a hypothetical question, but when you come out of it, you should be able to provide the reasonings of why it works and why it does not work, both
Hmm.
ways, and to say why, whether you should stand with that hypothetical question or not. I think for me that is very, very interesting game in itself. Going in with a question and coming back with answers. Some may help your hypothetical question, some may not. But I think one should not negate
Absolutely.
those, and
Not
bring,
at all.
because
Not at
that,
all.
and I think that brings in more good research, because then you will be able to
Indeed.
see 5, 10 extra strands of research which you did not see before.
I wish to share with you at this point, because you already know that you have a number there in terms of interview. So we have been trying to learn, unlearn, relearn about the way things are for women in the water sector. But alongside, I am also carrying out a research on women in built environment. So all put together, I may have spoken to more than 150 women, and maybe I am prejudiced that there is more patriarchy in the society. There is shortage of women leadership in respective sectors, and that is why I'm conducting this research. And maybe it is backed by some kind of statistics and some kind of discussions which are going on. And I think we can keep discussing those things, as these are extremely important topics to discuss. But it's something very interesting which has come out from your conversation, is asking important questions, inter alliances, and all. I would like to move on to our last question of the day today, because you have answered. Actually, I have more questions, but you have answered some of the questions through, mm, uh, you know through your responses. And that is where I'm liking the fact that I didn't have to ask you too many questions. So my last question to you is on leadership. And I'm sure no one better than you in this conversation will agree that leadership is a pyramidal position in any setup, whether it is council or an organization. At the same time, it is a gender neutral or gender less state of affairs. Still, I'm sure you reckon that because there are certain skill sets required to be a good leader, and you have worked with numerous leaders from across different sectors. You may also reckon that some skills are born. So we say that leaders are born leaders. So who, according to you, or I mean, what characteristics, according to you, do you think a leader must have, whether it is by birth or acquired skills? But from your own personal perspective, what is your idea of a good leader? And then what are some of the skill sets one can actually upskill for themselves to even have that opportunity to chart the path of leadership? You know, some people may have it already, we don't know. At least the literature tells that there are some skills which you inherit naturally, you have it. But there are certain skills which you can also upskill through some programs, some trainings. What do you think about it? I mean, who are leaders for you? Some general characteristics or important characteristics, and what skills one can upskill for themselves?
See, from a leadership perspective, I think one is I personally think one should uh, when going in as a leader, um, first of all, they themselves need to be very professional about and understand, have very good clarity about their work. What is their job? I think, first of all, my thing is please go, at least for me, it's like going back and reading your JD, job description, every day to understand what you are supposed to do. The reason I say this is because a good leader would probably know what they are supposed to do exactly. When you get into a leadership position, it's about managing people, also understanding people, most importantly. I think first, even before managing, it is about understanding. Is that understand the people who are working for you, understand the people who with whom you work, and then what kind of work that you can do with them. Not everybody is skilled in everything,
Absolutely.
and not everybody is good at everything. The same goes for even the leader themselves. I think understanding who has this skill, that skill, or is good at this issue or that issue is very, very important. I think that itself will tell you that the leader will be able to extract the best of work from people based on understanding. One of the other important thing is never underestimating anybody, including yourself, which sometimes I have also unconsciously done, that I have underestimated myself, that whether I would be able to do this or not. But I have realized that, you never underestimate yourself and neither others, and neither overestimate anybody. That is also very important. I think when feeding in, I think you should be very fair and frank about what you can do and cannot do. There are certain things you can bring on the table, certain things you can't do. And where you can't do, then you use the people who can do. So when you are not the accountant, don't try and do the accountant's job. That is very, very clear. So if you have an accountant, put them to good use and take out the best of work from them. So I think a leader needs to know exactly who needs to do what job and get it out of them. That is one. Second is, I think it also depends on what position you are in what level you are in. If you are at a very higher level, I think that itself puts you in a place where you are not supposed to get into the nitty-gritty of day-to-day details. How you manage things, micromanage, macromanage, or mediocrely manage, or however you manage. The point is, one needs to set out boundaries on where you are supposed to manage and where you are supposed to trust people. I think trust is very important. Placing trust
Mm.
in people you work with, giving them the space to work. I think when you place some trust, you will anyway give them space to work. You would say,
Mm.
do the work, you bring it to me, and then we will see. I think that's very, very important. I personally think is that first you place the trust in them. Do not underestimate people or neither overestimate people, and take out work based on that.
Sure.
Once you have given the work, don't chase them around. You have given them time, let them take the time, let them breathe, and then come back. If you chase them around, then they're never able to do it. Nobody will be able to do it. So, you know, if I do helicopter parenting over my son and I tell him, you do your homework, but I keep standing over it, he will never do it because he will always be nervous about writing the next line. So once you have told him, you go out, do your work, and
It's
come back
about
and
the
ask, have you?
trust thing. Mm.
Yes, that is very important. I think that is second. I think third thing is you yourself need to be a learner, somebody who puts in more effort into expanding our horizon on a daily basis, reading up, talking to people, networking, uh, continuously discussing your sector, your work with everybody is very important. I
Mm.
I think that is important in many many
Abs-
ways. Uh, so this is something from that. I think it's so important for you to, because as a leader you're also required to be innovative. You're also
mm.
required to think through for the next 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, 20 years, put together these kinds of strategic thought. Uh, a
Mm.
leadership is all about strategic thought. It's
Mm.
not about day-to-day engagement. It's about strategic thought. You day-to-day engagement is for others to do because they're still
Mm.
learning. They are getting to that space. For them, day-to-day engagement is important. For as a leader, it's about the strategic thought and then implementation. How
Mm.
to implement, what steps to take. That roadmap building that view work as well as the pointers for it is what leadership has to be about. So for me, that is very important that you keep your eye on the goal all the time. That is the and last but not least, from a personal perspective as well, I think when I say understanding people, while you are as how do you say compassionate about people you work with as a leader, um, again professionalism is professionalism. I think from my perspective, one, you should speak up, ask people to tell you what they are going through. And once they know that you are someone they can also trust, they will anyway come to
Mm.
you with what you are going through. I think somebody should be able to say, no, today I can't do this work because I have to do this. I think if you have given them some work and they are having some trouble, I think you should be able to create enough comfort space for people to come and talk to you. That's good
Absolutely.
leadership, because once they are able to come and talk to you, then you can also tell them, fine, why don't you do this now and do this later?
Mm.
Let's do. I think for me, it's mostly is that a good leader is also someone who can find calm in chaos, who
Mm.
can remain more, and I can adhere to this because I have always been someone who's to be extra anxious, jumping the gun for a really long time. But in the beginning of my career, but slowly I have come into a space where now things don't get into my they don't make me nervous anymore so much. So now the reason is also because now you know how to with
Absolutely.
experience, you know how to deal with things. I think one needs to also put your experience to good use, know when to do what, how to deliver things. So people actually are looking up to you. Uh, so it should not be like the leader is looking down to other people. "Bhai, kare kya?" No. So when they are looking up to you, then you should be also around that time. The leadership is all about being able to keep yourself together even when the others are not, don't know how to go about. I think you are supposed to direct people, you are supposed to guide them, you are supposed to also, provide them learning experiences, while you are also learning on the job from so many other people. And while you're all doing all of this, um, you're making sure that, you are able to deliver everything in the way, in the most best of quality that is expected. I think at the end, the leader also has to instill this, that whatever work we are doing is a collective effort, and that what we bring out has to be of highest quality so that it is visible and is acknowledged by everyone in the sector. And that would only happen when we give an ownership to everybody else. The leader can't take the
Absolutely.
ownership. That is one of the first things. Uh, when
Absolutely.
you are coordinating projects or we are doing things, you need to just push people to do this. There were many times when I told the person, the younger colleague, to please go ahead and do it. I have
Mm.
given you the framework. Now it is your job to figure it out. If you have any problem, you come to me. If
Yes.
if if somebody has to take a blame, I'll take it. The blame is always the leaders, because the leader is the one who may not have done something in time. Blame is never of the person who's working under you. I personally think, when it comes to giving kudos and credits, you should definitely give it to everyone under you. But when it comes to taking responsibility, the leadership should be good enough to take that blame in and do course correction. Uh, and that is why you are the leader.
Mm.
You're paid the big bucks only for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Swati, for speaking your heart, and a very good masterclass, not only on leadership, but also the way gender should be not looked upon, but more from the performance perspective. I hope we arrive in the society in a situation where everything is about performance. I also hope that in the society, every leader is looking at work as a collective work, and where the success is everyone's and the failure or the mistakes are of the leaders. Thank you so much, Swati Ganeshan, for this enlightening interaction. I was feeling the conversation was flowing like water, and therefore just happily listening to you. And I also feel from your conversation that a leader has to be a good listener and learner. I hope you also enjoyed this conversation, and
Yes,
you
absolutely.
remain an inspiration to all of us. We are grateful to have learned about your thoughts and your water journey very briefly, because that's not something we are looking for in this conversation. May you continue your activities and do keep us posted. In here,
Sure.
we shall continue
Yes.
with Monday Munching and Musing with Women for Water, and also look at more from the women who are in the water sector, but also learn what do they think about life, what do they think about the profession, leadership, council, platforms, and everything. For now, thank you so much. Please take care. And we see some other women and hear them again. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. See
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.